So the next thing that we have on our agenda is we have two Faces of Hope speakers. These are two people who have been through the transplant process, and they're going to tell you their stories. And first up, we have Rod Springfield. If you'd like to come up, Rod. I don't want to tell you too much about him because he is going to tell you his story, and I'm going to pass it over to him. Thank you, Rod, for being here. Welcome. Let's see. Okay, he's going to do a sound test.
All right, can everyone hear me? We can hear you. You can? Okay. Okay, good. Turn it up. Turn it up? All right, you know what? I'm just gonna hold this. I'm gonna make life easy. My daddy taught me to work smart, not harder. So that's what I'm gonna do. First of all, thank you all for having me here. I'm really here to share with you my journey and really my testimony with you all. First, I just want to start off with a stanza of a poem that means a lot to me. And it goes, out of the night which covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. This is written by a man named William Ernest Henley, and the name of the poem is Invictus. Now, William Ernest Henley had tuberculosis, and he lost his left leg as a result of it. And as time went on, he eventually was told that he would lose his right leg. And he was really stressed and depressed. But it was his friends and family and medical professionals who he knew that really implored him to keep fighting, keep moving forward, so he could possibly keep his right leg. So what he did was he actually went to Scotland and he sought out treatment. And after months of treatment, he was told that he would be able to keep his right leg. He was so overwhelmed with joy, he immediately looked for his pencil and paper and began to write what became the poem Invictus. And of course, Invictus means unconquerable. One thing I feel like I share with William Ernest Henley is that in order to have this unconquerable mindset, you have to have, as the doctor talked about it, as community. It's your tribe. The individuals who are willing to stand with you in the muck and the mire. So my journey starts when I was 12 years old. And my mother took me to the hospital, took me to the doctor for my checkup, and it was discovered that I had juvenile diabetes. Now, of course, for a 12-year-old, I didn't quite understand, but I knew it was bad. And when the doctor left, I began to cry. My mother, she looked at me, she took a breath, and she said, listen, me, you, and your father are going to get through this. There's three of us, but together we make one, and we can move mountains. So wipe out your face, and we're gonna get through this. And got through this thing, and I got through this. I'm here today as an example of that. All throughout my high school years, I never missed a beat. When I needed love and support, they gave it to me. My mother gave it to me. When I needed scolding and to be put in the right mindset, to get my act together, my father was there for that. Thank God for that. But also my friends and family members and church members and people that knew what I was dealing with, they came and they would speak and give me words of encouragement. And that's how I never felt stopped or limited. I wanted to march in the band, I marched in the band. I wanted to be the editor of my school newspaper, I was the editor of my school newspaper. Anything I sought out, I wanted to accomplish, I was able to do in spite of being diabetic. The reason why I was able to do that is because I had the community, I had the tribe to lean on and to push me forward. In fact, my friends never patronized me. They simply had patience for me. They turned to me and said, Rod, you okay, man? You good? Yeah. Okay, cool, let's go. And then from there, we get into any type of trouble. Like, that's the father part. And as a result, I went to college. I graduated with a degree in journalism. I came out, I became a writer. I even became a producer. I got a chance to be a co-host on a news network, a news magazine show. I was feeling just uncomfortable, right? But it was never, and I actually found my next love, which was acting, or what I thought was my next love, because within acting, I found my wife. And she signed up to be a part of my tribe too, because I explained to her that what I was dealing with. And from there, we kept moving forward. I had the support of my friends, my family, my wife. I couldn't be stopped. In fact, my wife and I decided we would move to New York so I could pursue my master's in acting. And that we did. From there, everything was going well. But of course, there is a season where you're going to be challenged.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Amen.
So from there, in 2013, I had so many issues that was going on. I had an infection in my foot that some thought that, oh, you're gonna lose a toe or whatever the case may be. But my tribe, I'd already enlisted doctors who said, well, I know we can stop here, but let's look a little further. Let me work. Let me see what I can do for you. I'm still standing here on all my feet, all to the toes, praise God.
Amen. Amen.
From there, I went on and everything was going fine. August 11, 2013, discovered I had a minor stroke. Barely speak, let alone stand. But it was my tribe. In fact, my parents who traveled from Tennessee to New York City to make sure that I was on solid ground. And from there, we kept moving forward. In fact, I took a year off from graduate school to get myself together, and I came back the very next year, focused, determined. I had my tribe there for me. I had my friends that were calling me. Texting is fine. I don't knock technology. There's something about hearing the voice, establishing the human connection that is medicine for the spirit. Yes. So as I went on and began my journey back into graduate school, I had an unfortunate accident and actually broke my ankle. As time went on, I was discovering that I was having kidney failure, and it was due to that I had weaker bones. And it caused me to have a fracture like that. And what made it worse is that due to the diabetes, my bone became infected. Every day I walked into the doctor's office and he would say, Mr. Springfield, you have a 50-50 chance of losing your leg. All I could think about was Rodrikus and William Ernest Henley. And I said, well, you know what? I'm just going to leave it in God's hands. So that's all I could do.
Amen.
He kind of looked at me, scoffed, and he rolled his eyes and kept writing his notes. Went on. And I stayed focused, and I had an external fixator on my leg. Who all knows what an external fixator is? If not, I'll be happy to explain it to you.
Right.
It is a contraption, and I do mean that word, contraption that goes around your leg, mine did. And you have titanium pins sticking out of your leg, 22 titanium pins sticking out of my leg. I live in New York City. I'm taking crutches. People would look at my leg. Women would instantly pray because they knew I was going through some things. Children would look and grimace and wonder why, what was going on. To this day, I think I told some children that I was a robot. I had half robot. But the thing was is that I stayed on that path and was able to because of my family, of my friends who would call, of my wife who would go to Salvation Army and find pants that were way too big for me, just so the pants could fit over this monstrosity on my leg. That's a noble tribe person to do that. There's someone there for the long haul. That's what you need when you're talking about a tribe. I mean, that's what the doctor was talking about with community. So from there, I went on, and in the same place, a year later, I knew I was getting better, but it was hard work. The doctor stood in the same place and said, I don't know what God you're praying to, but you're healed. I said, okay. So, okay, so I'm feeling good. I'm feeling uncomfortable, right? I made it to the tough part. That was October of 2015. By February 2016, my doctor told me, Mr. Springfield, you have kidney failure. You started dialysis immediately. Years of diabetes and the stress and strain on my body brought me to this point. I took a deep breath. I hugged my wife. We went in there together. See, it goes back to that thing of there's three of us together, and we're one. We're uncomfortable. We can move mountains when we come together. So I started my treatment, and I got a chance to actually make my community larger by going to the dialysis center. Now, who all goes to the dialysis center knows it's a family that's there. Yeah. We support one another that's there. And I had a gentleman by the name of Francisco Rojas. He was a proud Puerto Rican man, very gruff, but had a lot of love. And he told me everything to look for, everything to be aware of, things I could do, things I shouldn't do. How I was able to maneuver and live with my disease. And I so appreciated his kindness. As time went on, I went and I got on the transplant list in New York City, Brooklyn. And I was still waiting, but here comes an angel that comes to me. It was a nurse and says, you need to go to Philadelphia. I know people that's went there and they've been healed. They've got transplants there. You should go. So my wife and I got in the mega bus and we went to Philly. Never been there, but it's all right. We got there and the people welcomed us with open arms. It was so kind. And they immediately said, we're going to get you on this list of Springfield. Within two or 3 weeks later, they called me and said I'd been voted on. Thanked them for it, and I went on with my day-to-day grind, going to the dialysis clinic, waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to catch my ride to the dialysis clinic, because my treatment started at 5:30. And as I went there, I'm walking past all sorts of things in the middle of the night to get on my ride, and get in the van to take me there. But I was determined, and I was encouraged by my tribe, focused because of my faith. As time went on, my friend Francisco had gotten sick. And as he was being taken away and was by the ambulance, I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, take care of my friend. And the thing about it is that Francisco had spoken life into me. He had said, hey, my friend, you're gonna get one. I'm gonna get what, Francisco? You're gonna get one. I kind of shrugged it off. 2 weeks later, he looked at me again and said, you're gonna get one. I said, I'm gonna get a transplant, Mary? Yeah. I said, man, we're both gonna get a transplant. He said, no, I just know it. I said, how do you know? So I talked to the big man upstairs, probably. He told me. So, okay, gracias. Went on. But that day, when I put my hand on my shoulder, my friend looked at me. He nodded, winked, and they took him on. 3 weeks later from that, a nurse walks up to me and tells me that Mrs. Springfield, did you know that Mr. Rojas passed away? So I mourned for this man. I didn't cry, but I mourned for him because someone who started at the beginning, I had all someone from my tribe. See, the thing about it is that when someone signs up to be a part of your tribe, you're a part of theirs too. You're each other's support system.
Amen.
Okay? It's an exchange. I came home, I told my wife what had happened. I told her, babe, I don't think I can go back. I'll see that chair. I know he's not going to be there. And I stayed in bed for most of the day. And the next day I went on. I said, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be just fine. I woke up on Sunday. Excuse me, my mic's getting too close. I woke up on Sunday, and my wife getting ready to go to work. She asked me, "Are you going to go to church today?" I said, "Yeah, I think I am." It was a December morning, sun was shining, brutally cold outside, typical New York weather. And I stepped outside and I walked into church, and I felt this smoldering emotion of joy as soon as I walked into the church. And I felt like I was 8 years old, and I had woken up on Christmas Eve, Christmas morning. And I was filling with joy and a sense of giddiness. I saw my neighbor run down the aisle and praise dance. I saw my deacon came in and gave me a high five. I saw people giving hugs. It was joy. And nothing but unspeakable joy in that place. My pastor stood up and he said, normally I would try to continue the service, but I'm going to allow the Holy Spirit to have its way. Yes. All I want you to do is stand, lift just your hands, take a deep breath, and give it to God. Right. So as I went on, I stood up. I'm not one who raised up my hands, man. I'm too cool for that, right? Yeah, I give a God what's up. Appreciate you. You sit down. But that day I raised my hand and I took a deep breath and I just sat back down and I'm ready for the service. I'm having that feeling of giddiness, of joy, just radiating. I'm just ready to go. And I get a call. I pick it up and I look and I see a number and I see Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I did what anybody would do. I said, man, I don't know nobody in Philly, man. You look like you are. Sally Mae. Sally, I need you to back off and let breathe. Come on, man. Come on. But as I went on, I grabbed that phone and I could hear the voice say, you know somebody that calls for you. They left me a voicemail. So I got up and I went to the back of the church and I went to the bathroom and I listened and said, Mr. Springfield, this is the nurse of Einstein Medical Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We have a match for you. Please call me and let me know where and if you want to receive it.
Remember that phone?
I said, I called back immediately. I told her, yeah, I want to receive it. And it was that clear voice again. Yeah. Said, if you want it, it's yours. Just have the courage to step on through. Right. And that will be your breakthrough to the other side. Yeah. So as I did that, I came out. I have this overwhelming expression on my face. My usher, the usher sees me. She walks up to me, asks if I was okay. I tell her what happened. And in typical usher fashion, she said, hold on right here. Let me get your thing. She grabbed my coat and my bag, looked at her pastor, and went, let's go. Let's go. The pastor didn't say no words. He came down. He came to me and said, brother, what's going on? And I told him. He never took his eyes off me. Just watched. First words out of his mouth was, give me my oil.
All right.
They anointed me with oil.
Amen.
He prayed for me. He said, can you share your testimony with the church? Just if you could, real quick. I said, sure. I went and I shared with them and I told them what had happened. See, I didn't realize these people were a part of my tribe too. Whether I was aware of it or not, they knew I was going through something. They were praying for me. They were giving me well wishes. They were giving me support. All of these numbers of people in the small church in Brooklyn in the Brownsville community. which is a tough community in Brooklyn.
Yes.
So when I went and grabbed my things and left, before I could make it across the street to my apartment door, they said, "Hey, Brother Springfield, come back. We got something for you." So I had $20 in my pocket, and I told them, I don't know how they get from Brooklyn to Philly, but I'm gonna make it.
All right now.
This is December. My community, like I said, don't have much. Within 5 minutes, they raised up enough money to make it to Philadelphia, make it back, and make it back to Philly again. Separated, but together, we can move on.
Yes. Yes.
I called my wife, I told her what had happened. She said, "Well, I'll finish up and I'll meet you there." Luckily, we were able to make it to Philadelphia at the same time with the train. We got there, I went into the hospital, and everything was just laid out ready to go.
Do it.
I called my father, called my parents, we prayed together. And then I prayed with my wife. And then before I went into the surgery, I had to talk with one. As my friend Francisco said, in the talk with the big man.
Right.
So I talked to the big man, I told him, I said, "God, if you can get me through this, if you can help me, I'll give you the fruit of my lips.
Oh, yeah.
I will give you the words that I speak to others. My testimony is to feed them, to feed their spirits." I went in, I got settled, they had given me anesthesia, and I'm getting comfortable, and I lay back, take a deep breath. And I raised my head up again and I said, y'all need me to move. And the gentleman turned around and said, "Mr. Springfield, we've done it. We've been working on you, man, for the past 6 times. Bro, I'm ready to go home." My wife comes around, she looks at me, she said, "You look great." The first question I had in my mind was, "Baby, am I big?" That's what I want to know.
Exactly.
She said, "Yeah, babe, I believe you are."
Amen.
It matters not how straight the gate,
Yeah.
how charged with punishment's scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
Yes.
Yes.
And because of my faith and my pride, it was so.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you. My name is Rodrikus.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Rod. Those were powerful and encouraging words. Next up, we have one more Faces of Hope speaker, Beth Lehman. And again, I don't want to tell you guys much about her or her story because she's going to share, but please welcome Beth.
Can we get another round of applause for Rod? So I've got some numbers for you. The first one is 22,132. The second one is 2.5 years. That is how long it's been since I laid upstairs in this hospital getting my liver transplant.
Amen.
So I wanted to reintroduce myself. My name is Beth Lehman, and I'm an alcoholic.
Oh.
I know you're thinking, wait, that meeting's in the other auditorium. But I'm Beth Lehman, and I'm liver cancer. I'm a liver transplant. Those are all labels that I've put on myself the past 2 to 3 years. But now I have a new one, survivor. Yes. So, as I said, I was a drinker. I drank alcohol and I thought it was socially, you know, who doesn't have wine with dinner? That's for everybody, right? And then I started realizing that I was continuing to drink while my husband would stop. It increased and it increased. I would see my primary care physician every year. I would lie on the questionnaire. How many drinks do you have a week? Oh, yeah, one. Yeah. 1 hour. So, my liver continued to rot because that's literally what it did. And on December 18th of 2019, I saw a hepatologist for the first time, accompanied by my PCP, who had said, "You're going. You're not going to lie to me anymore." In that visit, he told me I needed a transplant. There was no, let's work on your diet. Let's try a new diet. Try to get your liver working again. Nope, it was too far damaged. So then, because I was an alcoholic, and I'm so thankful that this happened, I had to go through 6 months of sober counseling before Piedmont would list me. That's a transplant center specific rule. Not all transplant centers make you go through the 6 months. As a matter of fact, in New York City, you can be at a hospital in New Jersey and not be able to get a transplant if you don't do the 6 months. Go across the river into New York City and you can get one in 3 days, no matter what the condition. So it's very, very transplant center specific. But I had already become sober. I became sober because I couldn't keep water down, much less my wine. You know, I had come a long way from drinking 3 bottles of wine a day, sometimes more, to not being able to have water. So I started the sober counseling, and once I was down on the path with that, I go to transplant evaluation. I'm feeling great. I drive myself there. I got sick, really, really sick in March of 2020. So this is July of 2020, and it's COVID. So I'm by myself, you know. I was doing yoga in the hospital room. I felt fantastic. Go home, and I said, I think I passed. Because what a transplant evaluation is they look at every system of your body, every every orifice of my body had something going in and coming out. And I called it my 100,000-mile workout. So I laughed and felt good. January 24th was a Friday. Phone rings. It's the transplant center. And they said, you have liver cancer. And it's advanced. You have 5 tumors. And you also have tuberculosis. Do you know how you got that? No, I don't. We pinned that down to my volunteer work with hospice. So my world goes from feeling great, I'm going to be on the transplant list, to all of a sudden needing to have cancer treatments. However, cancer treatments for the liver are different. We were going to have radiation because we did not want to kill the cancer, we wanted to contain it in the liver. And your tumors have to be 2 centimeters for that to happen. Mine were 1.8 and 1.9. There were 3 other smaller ones. So the doctor said, go home and wait. 3 months I waited. So finally start radiation. Go through 3 rounds of radiation. December of 2020 comes. I call it all of our COVID Christmas. We know where we all were. And I was with my mother, my father, and my grandmother. And I struggled. The radiation had made me weak. But looking back at it, I think in my mind I was treating that Christmas like it was going to be my last. Has anybody heard of Dylan's Candy Bar in New York City? Okay. I spent a lot of money and ordered almost everything I could from Dylan's Candy Bar and turned my dining room into the Nutcracker Palace. My husband said, how did you pay for this? I said, oh, it was on sale. Yeah. The conversation when he finally realized wasn't fun. But I was doing things like that subconsciously, and we went through Christmas, and 2 days after Christmas, my husband gets a package. It's my grandmother's cane. She said I needed it more than she did. I was physically getting weaker and weaker. So the new year rolls around, and I'm just cruising, right? We're on the transplant list, we're waiting, and I'm having really, really bad back pain. And I go to see my doctor, and he's like, you're thin, you've lost weight. I don't have a big frame anyway, but I was down to about 82 pounds. He said, you're sitting on your bones. That's why your back hurts. And I said, no, this is something different. Please order me an MRI. He did. And 15 minutes after the MRI ended, he called me. He said, I am so sorry. He said, you have a shattered tumor. It is shattered into multiple pieces. And to find somebody to do that surgeon on a transplant patient wasn't easy. So my primary care physician once again came to the rescue. And 4 days later, they did that surgery. I was under a lot of pain and I didn't know what was going on. But when they got in there for that surgery, they found out that my sciatic nerve was wrapped around the fractures. So they had to untangle that nerve. That surgery took 2.5 times longer than my transplant surgery did. So we're cruising again. You know, I recovered from that. And my 2 worst symptoms of liver disease were ascites and hepatic encephalopathy. I didn't know what I was doing and I looked like I was pregnant. So I was going in every week, getting 8 liters of fluid pulled from me. That ended up being 2 times a week, 8 liters. And I forgot to bring it today, but I usually bring a 2-liter bottle of Coke with me. And I say 4 of these were pulled from me twice a week. That's how much fluid was building up. Because my liver wasn't working. I was in complete liver failure. So all of those toxins and fluids and all that, the bile was building up in my liver. So I developed an umbilical hernia. And the doctors wanted to wait till transplant surgery to fix it. But it kept growing. We named him Rudy. I don't know where we got the name Rudy. And then he woke up one morning and Rudy was bleeding. Went to my husband and he was like, that doesn't look good. Take a picture and send it to your doctor. Went to my primary care physician once again, because she had all the answers. She sent me to a surgeon within 10 minutes. The surgeon sent me to the ER within 15 minutes of with him. And I was being admitted to have emergency hernia surgery. Now, if you can imagine, I'm laying in the ER bed, right? And I'm a transplant candidate. I've got Rudy. By this time, Rudy was 2.5 inches out of my belly. Yeah, good looking. And so the general surgeons were coordinating everything. My hepatologist was there, the transplant surgeons were there, multiple nurses were there. And my hepatologist, I don't know if any of you guys know Dr. Rubin from the Mason Transplant Clinic, but he looks at me and he said, I just realized something. You're in the padded room at the ER where they put the criminals. And he said, there's handcuffs on the wall in case you ever get in trouble. So he took that to mean that I was not stopped giving him trouble. Would he ever get me transplanted? Nobody knew. So had to have that surgery and then cruising once again. And in April of every year, I celebrate 2 anniversaries. April 18th is a day where I was feeling really good. And I had my wits about me. My parents came up. And my parents and me and my husband sat in my den and planned my funeral. It was getting that bad, and the doctors had said, you know, need to kind of think about this. So I told my family I wanted Carrie Underwood to sing the Hallelujah chorus at my funeral. They said, we'll think about that. So they leave and they hug me, and although we love each other dearly, we are not a huggy family. I looked at my husband and I said, oh crap, I must be really sick. They hugged me. And we go back in, they drive home. And 2 hours later, we get a phone call. We have a liver. So I called my parents and I said, have y'all made it home yet? And he goes, no, we're in Lowe's. What do you mean? New windows. You know. And I told him, and he actually thought it was a joke. We are a very humorous family, and all of a sudden he didn't believe me until my husband got on the phone and said yes. So I was told that I didn't need to the hospital till 6 a.m. the next morning. So yeah, I got a lot of sleep that night. You know, and my mind immediately went to the family of my donor, because the worst day of their life is going to turn into the best day of mine. You know, I often speak with a lady whose son committed suicide and became a donor. And to speak with her and have that dynamic of her worst day becoming my best day is something that I don't get used to at all. The next morning we go in, the lady that checked us in had a sweatshirt on that had, you know, the word faith vertically with the cross and the F, and then said, it's going to be okay. So as y'all know, I mean, I don't know if some of y'all see me in the lobby. I'm a talker. I walk around. I make myself known. So I'm in my room waiting, and every nurse had come to my room. I had been through radiation. I had been through hernias, general surgery. So all of those people were in my room, and you know, the nurse comes in, and said, "Oh, it's the party." And I said, "Yes," and I brought the wine. She looked at me and said, "Too soon." So I go into surgery at 7:23, and at 11:53, they called my husband and said that I was done. It was one of the fastest liver transplants that my surgeon had ever done. I was out of ICU in 5 hours. I was ready to be out of the hospital in 3 days. But if you've ever been in the hospital, they won't let you leave till you do what? Poop. Yep. Couldn't poop. So my husband was bringing me all these foods and stuff. So finally on day 5, I pooped. I announced it to everybody. Yep. And said, "Let me go home." I am so lucky because I have not been back in the hospital since. I have had nothing but a fantastic recovery. I'm looking out in the audience and I see so many familiar faces. And I know some of them have not had it quite as easy as me. And I want to just acknowledge that a transplant is a big, big deal. If sometimes I forget I'm immunocompromised. And my husband's like, wait, don't put your hands on all those armrails and all that stuff. You bite your fingernails, remember? So now I am living a life that came to me when I woke up in ICU. When I woke up in ICU, the word rebirth came to my mind. And that's not a word that I normally would have used. I was like, okay, God, what is this? And the path has been laid out for me. I've had so many fabulous opportunities, including here with the Georgia Transplant Foundation. And I have been very, very blessed to work on a national level as well with the American Liver Foundation. And working on policy so that people that come behind me maybe won't have to go through some of the obstacles. You're always going to have obstacles. So I want to end on going back to what I told you in the beginning. My new label is survivor. But can I get a show of hands of who is waiting on a transplant? Let's see. Okay, quite a few of you. I'm going to talk to you guys right now, okay? I want you to look at me and see hope. Because it can happen.
Yeah.
And what I want to tell you is to be your own best advocate. My doctor got annoyed with me because every time I would have an appointment, I would come in with the book.
Right.
And it had all my questions in it.
That's right.
And I would ask them. And I'm a talker. And I would ask them. By the end of my visits, he would just simply grab the book from me. And as we were talking, I was talking, he was just writing down the answers in the book. I thought this concept was normal. I have a book for everything. My grocery lists are in a book. My gardening plan is in a book. My recipes are in a book. But a year and a half after my surgery, 18 months, I was asked to speak at the national meeting for all of hepatology. They got real creative, and the name of it is the liver meeting. Seriously, yes. And as I was talking about a little book that I had and having questions of, well, doesn't the doctor get mad? Doesn't it take too long? I said, no. I said, every doctor I've talked to since transplant wants you to ask the questions. So I say 2 things. Number 1 is know your disease as a patient. You got to do a little work too. You got to keep up with yourself. I like to make the analogy of, let's say you poop purple all the time, right? You don't need to call the doctor if you poop purple again. But if all of a sudden you poop orange, then it's time to call the doctor. Don't go to extremes. But the most important thing I want to convey to you, especially those of you that are waiting on the transplant right now, is figure out how you communicate with your doctor. I tell the story that I'm married to a lawyer, and at home, he's not allowed to speak to me in words over 3 syllables. I ain't gonna understand it. I tell him to country it down for me. And it really is policy. I look at him and I go, 4 syllables, not getting it. And I said the same thing to my doctor, and he kind of laughed. And he went, that's actually pretty good request, And I said, yeah, doc, you got to dumb it down. But figure out how you communicate with your doctor. If you need them to draw pictures, if you need them to not use medical terms, figure that out. And once you can get that, you can make the most of the 10, 12 minutes you have with them. And I hope that those of you that are waiting are going to get your transplant soon. And then you'll be on this side of it. As a transplant recipient, I think we are required. I think they put a little barcode on the organs that they put inside of us, and they scan us and say, are you paying it forward? Are you working with us?
Right.
So I just want to leave you with that. I want to leave you with thank you for everybody in here that's gotten a transplant. We all say thank you.
Thank you. Amen.
And let's collectively thank our donors. Thank you to our donors and their families. If you are waiting, keep the hope. Okay? I've got cards here. I've got some information. If anybody has any questions, feel free to come and ask me. I'm an open book. So I will make one caveat and say that I took a year after my transplant to think about my story. Because alcoholism is not an individual disease. It affects your entire family. So I had to make sure my family was going to be okay with me coming forward. You can't hurt me. Everything's going to slide off me, but my family's another story. So when I decided to come forward, I said, I'm going to be 100% honest. Even if it hurts me to say something, I will tell you the truth. So if you have any questions, feel free. Thank y'all. I appreciate it.